Hey, what's up, guys? I've got a news story about the 2020 election that sort of flew under the radar this past week, and I wanted to bring it to you. I'm Nick Ricada of Ricada Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer and a legal and political commentator here on YouTube. So, this is a judgment that came up this past week about the 2020 election. In August of 2020, the Virginia Board of Elections tried to pass a rule, and that rule said that ballots could be received up to 3 days after Election Day, even if they didn't have a postmark. Yes, you heard that right. These were mail in ballots that happened to be missing a postmark, were going to be allowed to be received in Virginia up to 3 days after the election. Now, ultimately, the Public Interest Legal Foundation came up and filed the suit that we're talking about today, and they won a preliminary injunction in October. And they basically argued that it is not legally acceptable under Virginia state law to accept ballots that don't have postmarks past that election day time. They can't prove that the ballots were mailed in prior to the election day, so they can't accept the ballots. Now, they won that preliminary injunction, and so it's important to know that this lawsuit doesn't have any current effect on the 2020 election results. Its effects were actually in place for the election. But I found it interesting because this is a story that kind of slipped under there, where Virginia tried to set up the election to accept late mail-in votes, even though they wouldn't have that postmark. But this past week, the judge went ahead and solidified that this practice is illegal, and they have to amend the rules that are part of the election code permanently to make sure that these are not allowed because they don't comply with Virginia state law. So this is a victory for the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Now, a big part of their victory was felt before the election, but this was before a lot of the election lawsuit news became very big. So I know a lot of people probably don't know about this suit, and I found it pretty interesting. But I have attached their statement from the Public Interest Legal Foundation, which does have a screenshot of the actual order from the judge. This is a state law or a state court order, so they're a little bit harder to find. But basically, it says that this attempted rule change was unlawful. They issued the preliminary injunction, so these ballots were not counted in the 2020 election, and then solidified it this past week, saying that going forward, they would not be able to go ahead and count ballots like this in future elections. So this is a big victory for the rule of law, but it doesn't have any particular impact on the 2020 election itself. But it does raise questions in my mind about just who was making these laws and who was attempting to set up the rules to allow ballots that seemed a little bit suspicious. At least that's what I took from it. What do you think? Drop a comment down below and let me know. We'll talk to you soon. Peace. Peace.